to discuss on traditional infrastructure architecture, and today's will be a little bit introduction to cloud. Okay, and today we'll be talking about cloud computing in detail. So what we did yesterday, we just we talked about the on-premise data center, how the users will be connected, what are the resources used in a data center. Okay, be it with networking, storage, servers, virtualization, OS, middleware, runtime, and so on. And we talked about we just so we talked about the organization structure. Okay, why what is the need of IT and what are the applications used in an organization like enterprise resource planning and other things. So we talked about a little bit about what are the applications that will be used, what are the tools that will be used in an organization. Okay, like business intelligence, collaboration tools, management tools, databases, and general tools. We saw a bit of what is a what does a data center looks like, and talk about a primary data center, a secondary data center. Whenever whenever we talk about primary and data center, data needs to be replicated and other things. But there is a common word also known as business continuity plan. Okay, why they want two data centers, so that the business don't get affected due to IT outages. Okay. So what are the components attached? Compute, storage, network security. We talked about a little bit about virtualization. What are the we talked about VMware, ESXi, Citrix, Microsoft Hyper-V, Red Hat KVM, and there will be software licenses related to your applications like Microsoft licenses, other and respective licenses, and then we will do technical recurring expenses that we talked about. Then we talked about the pain points of an on-prem infrastructure, and then we introduced why cloud computing is required. Okay. So I will be talking in detail today. What are the features? We talked a little bit of history. We just had an overview of what are services and their examples on cloud services. We talk about the who is the leader in this point of time. Currently, it is, as per the Gartner report, it is AWS. Okay. And we briefed a little bit about the certification paths. Okay. And I have already sent you some important links written by me. So you can go through it. If you have any queries, I am happy to help you over there. So until now, and I also shared a video where it says how many certifications are required for a cloud and what is required for a cloud stack. So hope we have gone through it. And any queries until now? I also shared some assignments, and first thing, apart from the assignment, from I think so from the 14 participants or 15 participants, whoever have can you tell me how many have done the registration part, the free tier registration, AWS free tier? Everybody? Everybody has done the free tier registration? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
I'm not getting answers or.
No, sir. Actually, we were typing on this chat box so as to make sure that there is no external disturbance. So in the chat box, you can see there are some people who have written already.
Okay.
I'm sorry, sir. I haven't done the registration part.
No issues. But today, if you get time, you can do it.
Yeah, yesterday I shared the stepwise procedure in the group, sir.
Okay.
Also,
Okay.
I have gone through.
Anyways, I have shared a video link that will be very helpful to create an free tier. this thing. Okay, so let's start. Please, please do mute yourself. So today, actually, I'll just go deep into my screen is visible, right? Module 2, computing in detail.
Yes, sir. It's visible, sir. It's visible.
So we'll talk about about detailing about the characteristic of cloud deployment forms. Okay, cloud service models. We'll have a we'll have a high overview touch on serverless, ISE, containerization, application architecture, and so on. Before I continue on this, okay, I'll just share you and so earlier I'll share you this link in the chat box or on the WhatsApp. This is it shows how an AWS what are the requirement in an AWS data centers, right? So you can so now there in if you talk about AWS, it has a very global reach, and why it is so? Because it is into retail business also, right? Like it sells you many stuffs and books and many products and other things. So for them also, it is necessary for them also to grow at every point across the world. So their applications doesn't feel any slowness and this thing. So this is how they have grown until now. In my tomorrow's lecture, I'll show how much they have grown. But in regards to the data center, this is what it is, right? Site selection, redundancy. So I'll share this link with you. And this is one of the data center in AWS data center in US. So there are this type of data centers. There are lots of data centers across the world. Okay. So this is one of the data center that it is. So you can see the for the rack storage it is giving. They also they make use of renewable power energy. Okay. Uh, uh, by windmill and other stuff, cooling and other parts of this thing. So just wanted to share this with you. And this you can also go into Google and type AWS data center. So in the images part, you'll get this part. So we talked about IT infrastructure evolution yesterday, right? So we talked what we started from mainframes, and then we had standalone infrastructures over there. Then it was transformed to virtual infrastructure. Okay, like I talk about virtualization, like Hyper-V, Citrix Zen, and Microsoft Hyper-V, and VMware, and Red Hat KVM. Then we had an evolution for virtual applications like standardization, consolidation, and applications were also virtualized. Then we came up having a term called private cloud. Now, private cloud, large enterprises like Amazon and Microsoft or this thing, okay, or if it is a very large enterprise or government sector enterprises, what they thought that we want to, we will have our own virtualized big data center, and it will have all virtualized applications shared through the web through their customers or through their staffs or to be accessed over the internet. Either it will be VPN, either it will be web direct access over the internet, and so on. Okay, so this is what they came with, and then now I'll explain about the hybrid cloud concept. So there are lots of there are main three public clouds in the market providing you the compute provisions. That is Google GCP, Google Cloud Platform, Microsoft Azure, and Amazon AWS. So what what we did as part of the IT infrastructure evolution. So this is what I explained yesterday, the traditional infrastructure, right? So we had silos. all these were has to be managed in silos. Like storage was supposed to be managed by the storage admin. Server was supposed to be managed by the system admin. Network was supposed to be managed by the network admin. And overall, all these three admins were managed by the management team. Okay, regarding the monitoring and the help desk, the incidents, the change procedures, and the other parts. So from traditional, we evaluated into converged infrastructure. So what is converged infrastructure is all the multiple components, okay, were joined into a single optimized compute unit through virtualization. So network, storage, management, I had, as I told you yesterday, we would have an hypervisor, um, uh, like a Citrix Zen or a Hyper-V, and then we will have a guest OS like Microsoft, and all this on the guest OS part, we'll have all these components, and then the application will be accessed on the same. After that, we had hyperconverged, where a time came when software-defined things were evolving. Okay, so the any minimum of the server, the compute, and software-defined storage, okay, were part of the virtualization this thing. So that's the reason we called it as hyperconverged. So I had an opportunity, for my company to evaluate for hyperconverged. Okay, so at that time, when we say HP, Dell, and other things, there were some more components like Nutanix, okay, where we had compute and storage at the same box. Okay, and there were software layers like Atlantis, where we can have software defined connection between these boxes. So these many companies, when they were in virtualization, like they were using Citrix and other things, right? So Citrix also was pushing, VMware was also pushing for the hyperconverged this thing for the enterprises. So, but was a costly this thing where they had to maintain the data centers. They had to increase they have to increase their investment on those parts. So now, after all these things, we are evolved into software-defined data center. So you will have software-defined network. We'll have software-defined storage. Where we have virtual machines as virtualization, where everything is virtualized. Okay, and this is being used by the cloud providers, software-defined data centers. Okay, so IT agility moves storage as a part of the server, virtualizes server and storage group. Any questions until now? So, yeah. So,
no, sir, it's clear up to this point.
Okay. So apart from the IT infrastructure, there was one more. Yeah,
Sir,
yeah.
Sir, can you please describe to this in a short form how to know about the every network, this network?
I didn't.
In a short form.
What do you want to describe? The software defined SDN. You can see SDDC, software defined data center. When you say hyperconverged, this is HCI, hyperconverged infrastructure. Okay, and you can have CI, converged infrastructure, and this is traditional infrastructure. So short forms you can make it whatever you want, but the terms are that software defined data centers. You can have an SDDC. So these are the, if you say SDN, it is software defined network. If you say SDS, it is software defined storage. Am I clear now?
Okay. Now clear.
So apart from the infrastructure evolution, there was one more evolution known as software evolution. Okay. So I will be explaining this in detail. So we came with client server model. Okay. Then we had web tier model, like N tier. We call as N tier model, which is currently also using it in many enterprises, where everything was applications were converted into web models. It can be accessed through the web browsers. Then monolithic architecture was a part of this web architecture, And now we see microservices. Like if you see your apps, right, like Paytm and Uber, your banking apps, net banking apps. So they all uses microservices components. Okay. So I'll just brief you how is it. So just coming to the evolution of a software. So when we talk about client architecture, so even web application has an architecture, right? In terms of software. So as I told you yesterday, we had earlier we were working as a client server architecture. So will we have a client browser, or else a client will be installed in your laptops, like I give an example of Outlook client accessing the email Microsoft Exchange servers for email transaction. So you may have a client browser and you may have a server. It may be, maybe the server will be accessing as a web server, okay, or it can be accounting software that needs to be accessed through a client browser, okay, or it can be an email server to be accessed through a client browser as well as a uh, client installed in your laptop. So this is what the user own machine, and it was company's server machines, right? Over the network, we used to. So as the things, as the technology evolved, okay. So we came with multi-tier architecture. That is nothing but also known as N-tier. So we'll have client browsers, okay, and over the net, they will be accessing the web servers. So these were classified into three main layers. One was the web tier, that is a presentation layer. When you talk about when you talk about the OSI model, right? So in the OSI, what is the top model? The application layer, right? Okay, and then the presentation layer. Okay, so everyone is aware of the OSI model, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So your application will be sitting on the web server, okay. And then we will have a business. As I told you yesterday, we use middleware. So middleware we can be have an application program interface, which is between the web server and the database, okay. And then we will have a database tier. So you can say server tier, middle tier, and data tier. This is the main architecture of your N-tier architecture. Okay, this part, the server tier, middle tier, and data tier. So this is also used in cloud technology now. Okay. So you can see an architecture or multi. The most common form and is three-tier application. So when you say application web, it's three-tier. What will it be? It will be your server tier, middle tier, and data tier, database tier. Okay. So you can have user interface programming in the user's computer, business logic in more centralized computer, and required data in computer that manages the databases. Are we clear until now? So this is what we covered, the two this thing I'll be covering in my future slides. Okay. So now anyone knows about NIST? It's a National Institute of Standards and Technology. It is, it is responsible for having guidelines, international guidelines, and international standards for all the services and technology innovations. So it's based in US. Okay, it starts with US companies, and then those guidelines are being enforced to other countries. Okay. As per NIST, when they came with the cloud this thing from at 2011, okay, they classified these three things. They classified first, they classified as essential characteristics of the cloud. What will be the essential characteristics of the cloud? Like rapid elasticity, resource pooling, major service, broad network access, and on-demand self-service. Then they came with the based on this characteristic, they came with the deployment models. What will be the model? Like public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, and community cloud. And then based on this, minimum three service models were there. Like as I told you, is an as a service model. So software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. So this is I'll share you this link, this website link for NIST. So it is not only based on cloud, it is for all the networking, servers, security, whatever guidelines you see in terms of the IEEE and compliance guidelines. So you will find it in NIST. So what are the characteristics of cloud? Right. So we have on-demand self-service. So we have 5 characteristics. So what are the how many characteristics will be? There will be total 5 characteristics of cloud. So it is on-demand self-service, computer services such as email application, network, storage, or server service that can be provided without requiring interaction with each service provider or without any human intervention on the provider side. So what they defined is that, okay, the whatever cloud services we have, whatever service provider will host his services, it should be self-service. There should not be any human intervention required. Okay, so this will what will it will help to access it fast and also reduce cost at the admin and other levels and or the operation levels. Then broad network access. So cloud services to be accessed over the internet by an client device and phone, laptop. So if you see whatever I'll explain, I will demonstrate you how to create some compute services also. But whatever when we say console.aws amazon.com, so I'm accessing that cloud provider service over the internet. Okay. Then resource pooling. Providers computing resources are pooled together to serve multiple resources such as compute, network, storage, and database. So computer resources are pooled together. Then rapid elasticity. Then resource provision capabilities should be elastic in nature. When you say elastic in nature, okay, in an traditional environment, I'll show you that in a while. In a traditional environment, when I'm strict to the hardware and the volume, Microsoft and the licenses over it or the applications over it. If I am to grow, either I have to upgrade my server or I have to change my server. Okay, and there will be an outage for doing that. But over here, what the characteristic NIST defined was it should be elastic. So whenever I need something, the demand is there. I will use use those many servers, and if the demand is not there, automatically it should scale out. So I will what will it save? It will save the cost. Okay, and then measure service. The resource usage can be automatically monitored, controlled, and reported, providing transparency for both the provider and consumer of the utilized service. So it can be automatically controlled or monitored. And there will be transparency. So whatever I've utilized, I'm paying for it, like pay as you go model, right? So there is if there is no transparency between the provider and the consumer, how will you come to know? So whatever you have used it, you will get the bill accordingly. Am I clear until now? So just explaining you the elasticity model. So, when we say rapid elasticity, we are talking about scaling. Okay. And what is scaling? Scaling is growing an infrastructure, compute, storage, networking larger so that the applications riding on that infrastructure can serve more people at a time. Okay. For example, if I'm an retail company, okay, and I have one similar to your Amazon or similar to your Flipkart, okay, and I need I have an portal or an app, okay, where you can do the shopping and others. So like New Year time has gone by, okay, or Christmas time or Diwali or any other festive time is there, okay. At that time, there is lots of sales and other things will be there. So there will be high peak at that time, right? Many people will be trying to shop at that particular time. Okay, and suppose I have an I don't have I don't have a scalable infrastructure at my backend to support my applications. What will happen? What will happen? It will burst out. Like many many mobile companies, they started uh, uh, I think so. I don't remember the name, but the many mobile companies, they started that we are giving this mobile for 399 rupees. Okay, and when they all consumer started to bombard their website, okay, the website was down because there was no scaling planning behind the scene. Okay, so at that time, when at the peak hours, okay, there will be, what will be required? I will require a lot of processing power, a lot of memory usage will be there. I may require some storage power, storage facilities also. But when the festive use is gone down, and when the sales are coming down and the demand is coming down, what I may require to scale out whatever I've used this thing, whatever resources I've used, I will require it to be reduced, right? So that I don't have to invest on that for a long time. Okay? So that is what we talk about scale in and scale out. Okay? So in traditional environment, right, we talk about two types of scaling. One is vertical scaling and one is horizontal scaling. Both the scalings are, when you talk about infrastructure, physical hardwares and this thing, vertical scaling is an important part also. And when we talk about cloud and other things, horizontal scaling is required. So I'll just explain you how it is, right? So when we talk about vertical scaling, right? If I have, as I told you, I have a small box, okay, and with limited RAM and with limited disk space, okay, and my application requires, as we are evolving, my application is, or the OS level is also getting sophisticated, and we require more compute and memory power. At that time, what will happen is that if I am in a physical environment, what I will do is either I will try to add more or update my server, right? I will try to add a CPU. Try to add my memory, add more RAMs, okay, or I will try to add more disks, okay, or I'll what whenever whenever we in a real-time environment, suppose we say that, okay, I want to install a particular application, okay, and earlier days, what will happen, the developer team or the application team will come to the system team and the network team, and they'll say, okay, this is my requirement. I require this operating system. I will require I require a minimum requirements of that application will be so and so. I will require this amount of memory. I will require this amount of CPU. Okay. At that time, what the system team will say, okay, what are you expecting with the apps? How much are you expecting for the growth of the app? Like an email exchange server, right? So earlier, when we talk about Exchange 5 or Exchange 2000 or Exchange 2003, the there was a limitation of the database, like 5 GB. Okay, now I think so they have increased to 16 GB or terabytes, so on. Okay, so so at that time you will ask, okay, what will be a requirement in that scenario, considering that suggestions and observations of the app. Okay, we will say, okay, for 5 years or 4 years, let's go for a bigger box, okay, with a minimum of this RAMs or this CPU or this disk, okay, and until the but what would happen, I have invested in the bigger box, and sometimes some particular app will not reach the will not at a particular time, maybe the usage will be less, or this thing uh, uh, usage of that application will be less. So I will not be using that box on a. I will not be optimally using that box accordingly. Okay, so I may lose some investment over here. So, like I say, it is a data center, and we just add an hardware, okay, and scale up. So when we talk about vertical scaling, we say scale up. What do we say? There is a technical term called scale up. Okay. Now to avoid now, okay, I was getting the required speed and other things, but I was losing the investments, right? So that there was then a term came to know why should I go for a bigger box. So what had happened is that I have 2 GB of server and this thing. I'll add similar servers, okay, similar servers in the pool. So as the demand increases, I will just add. I will keep on adding those many servers over there. But as the demand increases, I'll be reducing it. Okay. So this type of this thing was possible into virtual environment. Okay, I don't have to do in the physical hardware. I had a capacity in the physical hardware, and I knew that these many VMs can be created with this particular hardware. So this is what in cloud environment also. When you say physically, they keep on adding the one type of boxes, okay, and then it will be on the virtualized environment or something like that. So if you see, horizontal sales strategy used to enhance the performance of the server node by adding more instances of the server or to your existing pool of servers so that the load can be equally distributed. So we call this a scale out, or when you say adding more, it is scale out. When you say reducing it is scaling. So these are the two scaling concepts that will be very much required in cloud environment. Am I clear now?
Sir, can you please, hi sir, good afternoon. Can
Yeah.
you please repeat it once, that vertical scaling and horizontal scaling? Like
Okay.
you are
No
telling
issues.
something scaling in and out.
Uh, as I told you, right? Vertical scaling or scale up means what? Means I will be updating. Either I will be updating, either I will be updating the CPU, RAM, or a disk in the same machine, or I may go for an bigger box with CPU or RAM and this thing, uh, uh, and lose the investment. Okay, so adding hardware or adding configuring components in the same machine is known as vertical scaling. That is scale up. Okay. In horizontal scaling, okay, as you see, I will have a small box, right? I'll keep on adding machines or instances, okay, of the similar, like for example, I will say, I'll talk about vertical scaling first. If I'm a Wegener right now, okay, uh, and I require uh, as an this thing I will be okay. I am fascinated with Ferrari and other part. Okay, so what will say? Oh, Ferrari! I will get more speed, more. I can get more speed and other things. Right? But what for going from a Wagoner to Ferrari? What I have to what I lose? I lose money. I lose an investment. Okay. So why not I go for a similar concept of a similar car like Wagoner, add more if I have a 4-seater, I may go for a 5-seater Wagoner, but I'll save the cost. I'll keep how many cars I have, I'll get I'll save the cost with and get more little more performance and other things. So this is the same concept. I'll have the same box and add on resources, add on similar resources over there. So this is what when I say adding more resources, it is scale out. Okay, and once the demand is gone, okay, once this thing is gone, I'll reduce the number of instances or reduce the number of servers. So that is scaling. So when you talk about vertical scaling, it is scale up. When you talk about horizontal scaling, it is scale out or scale in. Am I clear now?
Yeah, got it, sir. Thank you.
So we come to cloud computing. Cloud computing is the on-demand delivery of compute power, database storage, and application and others. So like I said, that is on-demand delivery of compute power. Okay, with database storage and applications, and is pay-as-you-go pricing. So what are the benefits of cloud computing? You don't incur capital expense. Okay, you can take advantage of economies of scale. You can optimize the use of resources. You can effortlessly boost speed and agility. IT becomes simpler to streamline process, and you can enjoy the freedom of going global in few minutes. So we talked about characteristics of this. Now we will talk about deployment forms of deployment models of cloud computing. So there are three deployment models of cloud computing. One is private cloud, one is hybrid cloud, and one is public cloud. So I'll start with private cloud. Okay, it is not the same cloud. It is not as similar to your on-premise. Okay, but what if if I'm a government sector or a very large enterprise, I will say why I have money. I can invest in lot of compute power or infrastructure. So I will say, why should I go to invest on the public? Why should I give my data or store my data on the public cloud? Okay, and maybe if I'm a military operations, military organization or this thing, I'm not. Security will be at the high point, right? At that time, what they will say, okay, why can't we build our own cloud environment similar to the public cloud? Okay, I mean, like I talked about software defined data center or hyper converged infrastructure. Okay, so this will be on their own data center or on-premise data center, and this is ideal for single large enterprises or projects that demand better control and security. Okay, and this can be government sectors and other parts. Now this is one part. Then we come to public cloud. What are the public clouds available? They are Azure Cloud, AWS Cloud, and Google Cloud. What they do, they will provide me compute storage and network and other facilities, and ask the customers to build their infrastructure on their cloud and use the services. Use them as a service. So access to new technologies, virtual unlimited scalability. So here, what I will do, I don't have to invest here in your own data center. As I told you, I have to have a capital expense, and I have to invest a lot on that part. In the public cloud, it will be a pay-as-you-go model. So then we have one more cloud called a hybrid cloud. Okay, so this, what you will do, it will connect your private cloud to multiple public clouds. So the best example is, it can be, if I have a data center, as I showed you in my previous slide. If I have a data center and I have to want a secondary data center as a DR site, okay, I can go for an hybrid cloud option. So better support for remote workforce, business continuity, and reduce cost. So examples are AWS Outposts and Azure HCI. Okay, hybrid cloud infrastructure. It's not hyper converged, it is hybrid cloud infrastructure. Am I clear now? Okay. So there is one more. There is one more deployment model, is community cloud. So like open source and other things, right? Not much in use. So that's the reason I'm talking about only three. But there is one more called as community cloud. Then now now we don't only talk about a single cloud. What will happen? If I have a single cloud provider, right? Okay, I moved everything to that cloud. For example, I've moved everything to AWS. Okay, I'm working fine, no problem. I'm getting cost benefits and other things. But what if after 4 to 5 years, AWS says, okay, I'm increasing my price. So what saving you are doing that at that time? Okay, oh, I'm stick to one vendor. Okay, so not to do that. Multi-cloud came into picture. You can have application connecting to multiple public clouds. Okay, you will have your applications. We will have a web browser, and your applications will be connected to many public like AWS. If you say CRM, Salesforce. Okay, so AWS, Google, or Microsoft. So this is also have evolved a lot. So they don't talk about only expertise in one cloud. They talk about expertise in multi clouds. Okay, so we talk about so these are the compute forms that we talked about. Okay, and now we have deployment models. So what are the different deployment models that we our services, not deployment services, that not models. It's a type of mistake. It's services. So what are the deployment services that we talk about? Is infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. So these are the service models of cloud computing. So these are the deployment models of cloud computing. These are the service models of cloud computing. Yeah. Anything, Osman? Okay.
No, sir. Go ahead, sir. Sorry.
Yeah. So we have infrastructure as service. So we have deployment models. What are the deployment models? Are hybrid, public, and private cloud. And then we have IaaS, PaaS, and software as a service as service models of cloud computing. So we have IaaS offers access to network features. Like when we say IaaS, it is infrastructure. What will it provide? It will provide me provide me compute, storage, database, networks services on the public cloud. Okay, where I can move in my infrastructure to that services and allow my clients to access it. Okay. Then we have platform as a service. It's responsible for allowing organizations to focus on managing and deploying applications. I will come to the next slide to in detailed application. So software as a service refer to end user applications and that run and managed by service providers. So if you want to like Office 365, right, or Adobe, if you have, or any Salesforce CRM, everything is on the cloud. You just go to the web browser and access it. So everything, all your services is on the cloud. So in software as a service, you can use it. Platform as a service, you can build with it, like you can build your applications and other things. And infrastructure as a, you can move to it. So when you go as an customer control, right? So you will have more control on IaaS and less control on software as a service. So when you say more, you will have more control on infrastructure, but more trust on software as a service. So we can have control over here, and we can have trust over here. Okay. So normally cloud providers works on shared responsibility model. Okay. This is a very important term, shared responsibility model. Okay. So as I told you, as I explained it yesterday, that this will be our traditional environment, right? So everything everything the customer manages. Okay. So in infrastructure as a service, the AWS or Azure or Google, what it will provide this model. Okay, these components it will provide: networking, storage, servers, virtualization, OS, where it will be managed by the provider. AWS will manage it, Azure will manage it, or Google will manage it. Okay, on that particular environment. Okay, and this thing, application, data, runtime, middleware, the customer has to manage it. Okay, like you want to patch your applications, or you want to patch your OS, or you want to back up your data, it is the customer's responsibility. Okay, but anything related to provision of compute or storage or database or virtualization part, it is the provider's responsibility. Okay. So similarly, in platform as a service, as I told you, we can build with it. Where in a particular time where developers build their applications, right? They are very they are not interested in what where it is stored or what OS it is stored or this thing. They are focused on building their applications, right? And in that term, okay, these are the components will be managed by the provider until the runtime, until the and the applications and data will be the customer's responsibility. But in software, you trust everything. You trust the managed provider, and you will have everything hosted onto their environment, right from application to networking. So that is in a software as a service. It will be the managed provider. Am I clear until now? Okay. So this is
It's
what.
clear until.
Yeah. So as a in an infrastructure as a service, we have Amazon. Okay, we'll have servers, networking, storage services provided by Amazon, Microsoft Azure. It can be OCI, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or it can be Google Cloud. In platform as a service, the examples you can have your middleware, not middleware. The applications can be stored on your right from your storage, networking, and other parts until the middleware runtime environment. It will be managed by the service provider. Okay, the examples for this are AWS. It is known as Beanstalk. Okay, for Azure also we have some components, and for Google I think so it is App Engine. That is works as a platform as a service. For software as a service, right? Everything trusted, like Office 365 for Azure, for Microsoft, Google Suite for they have built their applications on their cloud, and they are providing their applications on pay as you go model, right? On a subscription model. So that is what is an example of software as a service. Apart from this service, right? So as I told you, evolution of hardware and this thing, right? So earlier, what we used to do, mainframe, physical machines. We're talking about physical machines, okay? And then we shifted to virtual machines, where your deployment times were taking the time to deploy it was a tedious task. And then we have virtual machines, and then now we are moving to containerization, okay? And then with containerization, people are talking about serverless. So when you talk about serverless, it's nothing but function as a service, FAAS, function as a service. So why it is so popular now? It is the way to execute modular pieces of code on the edge. Means with a piece of code, you can have a complete infrastructure created for you. Okay, like like I gave an example for AWS shopping example, right? So how they do it? They when there is a high peak, okay, the event will be triggered, and then that code will be executed, and with that execution, it will scale out your infrastructure accordingly. So it doesn't require any so functionality lets developers write and update piece of code on the fly, which can be executed in response to an event. It provides a platform allowing customers to develop, run, and manage application functionality without the complexity of building and maintaining the infrastructure typically associated with developing and launching an app. So that code is already written. Okay, with that code already, it is already written. This part of this this system will require this infrastructure, and you just build it with according to the code. So this is how serverless computing is famous now. Okay, with serverless computing, we have infrastructure as a code. Like as I told you, right? With a piece of code, the infrastructure will be created. So how you will say how is it possible? Is it possible by infrastructure as a code? So is the process of managing and provisioning computer data centers through machine readable definition files rather than physical hardware configuration or interactive configuration tools. So few automated IIC tools like Terraform. You will when you go deep onto this thing, you will hear about these terms like Terraform, AWS Cloud Formation. Okay, it is used for used by AWS automation, infrastructure automation. Azure Resource Manager, Google Cloud Development Manager, Chef, Puppet, and Ansible for Red Hat. Okay. So these are many tools that in cloud environment, right? We don't talk about physically or manually creating infrastructure. Lots of people now from two years down the line, okay, and many infrastructure experts like me also need to have an expertise in either one language like Python or where we can use these codings. Okay. Then we talk about containerization. So container topology is known as just a container. It's a method to package an application so that it can be run with its dependencies. So the main type of container is Docker, if you have heard about it. And to manage those Dockers, okay, we have an orchestration tool called Kubernetes. Then we have Redshift, OpenShift, and Windows Service Containers. So I'll just explain it over here. As I told you that we will have in a traditional virtual machine environment, we'll have a physical server, we'll have an operating system over it. Okay. Then we'll have an hypervisor. It may be Zen, KVM, and then we'll have guest OS where on top of it, my application will be hosted on it. So on my host machine, I will have an guest OS where my application will be hosted on it. Now this has been taken care of Docker. Now here, what was happening was I have to invest on this also. And there was, if something happens to my hypervisor, my host machine will go down. If something happens to my guest OS, my application is down. So to reduce that or to get rid of that, okay, we came with a concept of containers, okay, where we'll have an operating system, we will have a Docker daemon, Docker engine, and there will be no guest OS over here. And that of time, your application host machines will be created. So when you talk about your Paytm and other things, they are mostly using this concept, Docker containerization. Okay. And as I told you, how serverless runtime is. So functions are created, codes are created to create those part of the serverless model. Okay. So and in the software evaluation, we talked about application architecture. So we talked about monolithic architecture. What is monolithic architecture? So we are talking about application architecture also, right? So earlier, we had applications. We had a single applications, a large application in a single tiered software application. So whatever the modules were there, it was a part of a single tier component. Okay. So users from mobile or other users used to connect to that single architecture. Okay. And then the database used to. So it was a monolithic architecture. Application composed all in one piece. Okay. So monolithic application is simply deployed on a set of identical servers behind a load balancer. So this was the earliest stage. So now we talk about microservices. Okay. Microservices where it is all your applications are divided into small bits. Okay, so microservice is a service-oriented architecture pattern wherein applications are built as a collection of various smallest independent service units. The term micro refers to the sizing of a microservice, which must be manageable by a single development team. Okay, so if you see your client browser, if you have a Paytm or this thing, you have search engine will be a different module. Your payments will be a different module. Your review and ratings will be a different module, and this there will be a user interface will be connecting to these different modules. Like over here, right? You will have clients accessing an API, application program interface. Okay, and then we will have containers. Then that microservice will be placed on that containers, like for it will be Java or Python or whatever application the application language may support. Okay, and these will be different units storing the data into the databases, whether it will be SQL or no SQL. Am I clear now? Okay. So see, apart from in an organization chart, I explained about profit is also important for an organization. But as IT grows in, the next thing important is data. So data is measured, collective reports analyzed, wherein it can be visualized using graphs, images, or other analysis tools, right? So that some existing information of knowledge is represented. So it is just a piece of information, okay, which can be visualized using graphs, images, or analyzing tools. So if you can see over here, the types of data will be geographical data, cultural, scientific, financial data, statistical data, meteorological data, natural data, and transport data. So there are lots of things that can be done. But as you know, whatever devices that we are using a router in a house. We are using an phone, smartphone devices. Even there are some control devices coming to you into your home systems, right? Where it can be controlled over the internet and other things like surveillance cameras or control systems. Okay, and that can be controlled through sensors and other things. So too many devices are creating too many data, right? So that was an actually a problem statement where think tankers say, "Okay, what will we do with this type of data?" Okay, so they thought, okay, we'll break into chunks, okay, and correlate to any useful application or any useful usage. So that is where big data term came in. So big data is a field that treats ways to analyze systematically, extract information from, or otherwise deal with data sets. An example of big data may be petabytes, because lots of devices are creating lots of data. So data consists of billions to trillions of records of millions of people. So with data we have data stream in connection oriented communication. Okay, like a data stream is sequence of digital encoding coherent signal packets of data packets, and we talk about data warehouse. So we have lots of applications and modules, like we say CRM, customer relation management, ERP, billing, supply chain. So what will it do? It will and extract, transform, load. Will an application will be there. It will extract key and elements from these data. It will store over there, and with that data, analytics can be created, like reporting, dashboards, visualization, business intelligence. For this part of things, right, we require a data warehouse. So it's a large store of data accumulated from a wide range of sources within a company and used to guide management decisions. With as time goes, we are hearing about machine learning, artificial intelligence, and automation, right? So it's the scientific study of algorithms and statistical models that computer systems use to perform. Okay. Then we have artificial intelligence in computer science and so on. And we have automation is the technology by which a process or procedure is performed with the minimum human assistance. So you in cloud environment, you will find this term a lot, automation. Okay, automation can be connected to artificial intelligence and machine learning also, but infrastructure automation we can hear over here. Okay, like we are turning to DevOps, we are turning to digital transformation, okay, and so on. Are we clear until now? Okay. So before we go to the quiz part, right, I will just give you an. So I can just continue for 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes more, right? Not an issue. Are anybody with me or everybody sleeping?
No, sir, we are with you, sir.
Yes,
We are
Yes,
with
sir,
you.
we are with you. We are
Yes,
with you.
sir, we are with you.
Sometimes I get bugged with this. So what I have done is I'll go console.amazon. Yesterday I've explained you to go to the free tier part, right? Like to create an account. Once you create an account in free tier, okay, and give the you'll get a login name and password onto your this thing, okay, and you will be you will access to this part, this to login. It will ask you to login, so you can either go to console.amazon.com, or you want to see. So this is the site, right? NIST site that I told, nist.gov. So you can be aws.amazon. So you can say sign in the console, or you can say console.amazon aws.amazon.com. So it will give me this. So just a second. So it will ask me for my username password. So I'll have I'll use my username. So whenever you see, whenever you, oh, sorry. Whenever you want to, uh, whenever you have it, you'll have your username password. So for the first time, or whenever you want maximum control over this thing, you have to log in as a root user. So you can say account owner that performs tasks requiring unrestricted access. So, and this is what IAM user is. You can say a power user. We will have minimal access. Okay. Once you to create an IAM user, you have to log in as a root user first. So I'll just go here. Okay, so I'll give you the password. Okay. Now here, what I have enabled is for each of your account, right? I'll show you in the in your this thing also, uh, in the document also. So I have, I have created, I've enabled my account with multi-factor authentication, like you do in your bank this thing, right? Where you will give your username password, but whenever you want to give a transaction, you will have an OTP. Okay. Similarly, I'm using Google Authenticator. Okay. Actually, I want to show you over here, but my screen mirroring is not working currently. Or else I will show you. I'm using my iPhone, so I've installed that app in my this thing. But whenever I get chance, I will show you that. No issues. So I'm just I'm using my authenticator, and I'll get a code over there, a one-time password code. Okay. So 352 and 284. So we'll be coming to this dashboard. Okay. So you'll see I have logged in. I will have an account ID for this. Okay, and then I will have a billing dashboard. Okay, I'll be showing you this tomorrow. Explaining you these are the regions that I can select for. Currently, I'm selecting Mumbai. Okay, and then we have services. So you have these many services available with AWS. So you have compute service. Okay, you have a storage service. You have a database service. Okay, and then we have network content delivery where network services will be provided. Security services are there, and then lots of services related to management governance, like machine learning or application integration. Okay, where your company can make use of it. Okay. So just to give a brief. So everybody at least try to open the book that I shared. Everybody has accessed my book that I have shared, the link that I have shared yesterday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have access, sir.
Okay. So if you see over here, right, in the book, okay, this is a very handy book for beginners, for SysOps administrators, okay, cloud administrators, for cloud architects, and development or DevOps engineers.
Is this book is available on Google?
Yeah. So I've posted in my Google Drive. Okay, I posted this on my Google Drive, and this book is written by me.
Okay, so where can I find to this?
Please mute yourself first. You can find. I have given a link yesterday. Okay, if you want, I will share it one more time. Okay, I have given this link yesterday where you can find this book. Okay, and yesterday I asked you to do some gave some assignments, right? Okay, like these assignments that so whatever assignments I will be giving you, can refer this book, because it is very difficult for me to explain everything hands-on, right? So I will give you a concept, I will show you, provide you what to do. Okay, but you have to follow this book. And this book, I have already tried. I spent around 3 months on this book, had completed each and every lab by myself, have the screenshots, and have spoon fed you for this thing. Okay, so if you see over here, you can get more if you go to the preface section. I have links over there also. Okay, and then as I told you yesterday, I explained you the cloud learning paths. You will find the links over here. Okay, you can contact me on this email address for any support. Okay. Here I've explained about solution AWS solution architect. This examination is there, so I've given some links over there. How you have to prepare and other things. Okay, I've briefed about the 12-month introductory period, and there is a YouTube link over here also where you can create your free tier account. Okay. So then how to access to web console, how you can download the CLI you can refer the CLI documentation. Okay. So what in the assignment what I told you was to use this, download the CLI tool, log into web console like I showed you how to log in to web console, set a billing alarm, and the lab 3 is activate the multi-factor authentication. Okay, so if you can see over here, if you can, if you have to, the page sections are given over there. So if you can, everything is written over here. How do you want to access it? Root user, okay. Give the most updated region is North Virginia. This everything I'll be explaining. But this book is, if you follow this book, you will know major things. So what is the first thing when you log in? First, you create a free tier. Okay, log in as a root user. Create a set billing alarm. Though they say it's free for 12 months, but every component is not free. Okay, suppose you keep that service free, you will be charged for that. Okay, so those things you have to take care of. So you set a billing alarm so that in your in your email you can get a notification if you are exceeding. So you can start with $1 or $2, whatever you want. Okay, you can follow this and create that alarm for you. Then you can the IAM page and you complete this part. You have to activate MFA like multi-factor authentication, create individual user groups, and so what is required for multi-factor authentication, everything is given over here. You have to download a Google Authenticator. That links I will be providing you on your WhatsApp. Okay, actually this document will also give you, this link also will give you what to do. But I will regarding those I am using Google Authenticator for this. Okay, because it can be used in Android as well as Apple. And then you can at least 1 or 2 users you try to create yourself. Okay, if you can face any difficulties, I'm there for you to help you out. But if you refer this book point by point, you will not face any difficulties. So once you do that exercise right, you will find this type of this thing for your account. So if you go over here, okay, if you go to a billing dashboard, you'll get all the information. So regarding the billing information for this thing. Okay. So where you can get budgets and you can create. So if I say you can view your orders and invoices. So, major things I will just go through this thing. But now it is up to you also. So if you see, I have already because I had an extensive usage of this thing. So I've already paid this. Now this is due for me. Okay, so I can verify and pay. Okay, you can go to bills. And in case I'll show you in case if you want to delete the primary account also, how you can do that. I will just tomorrow, and just remind me, I'll show you that part. Okay. So this is how you have to explore yourself, right? First, go to create an account, explore the things. Okay. Then only you come to know what's there or what's and we learn with the book as well as my training to get those stuff. So am I clear right until now?
Sir,
Yeah.
like I have already signed up in AWS, but
Okay.
it's showing. Actually, I'm not able to. Just now, you have just gone through all the options, so I'm not able to do that. It's asking me to pay something. I think.
Actually, did you made that AWS account earlier? Did you use this earlier?
No, just I have logged in with my email address. I haven't used yet. Just
And
I have
did you
logged in.
provide the debit card and credit card details?
No, I haven't provided yet.
That day you have to do it.
Um, like just now you told me it's like
See,
a free for 12 months, right?
it's a free, yeah, it's a free this thing, but it requires and for a login purpose, it requires an debit card and I have already informed you in the web chat yesterday. You see
So
over here.
sorry, sir. Yesterday I was not available. I had exams, so I was
No
not
issues.
in the class.
No issues. You have your online, you have your job oriented course WhatsApp group, and you have an ISS AWS Cloud Essential group, right? I am posting the things over there.
I have added in only one WhatsApp group, that is ISS.
Okay, so in this, I'm posting it in both the groups. Okay, so you just
Okay.
look for my posts. Okay, so if you see over here, I've already done that yesterday. So this is the prerequisite I told. It's valid email ID and valid debit and credit card this thing. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And I have forwarded you a YouTube link over here. So, this is the YouTube link. Okay. So just
Okay.
click this link and follow the steps accordingly. Now you actually you have already done it. So you just need to go to the account details and provide you the debit card details.
Yeah, got it, sir.
But ensure once you do that, don't click the recurring part. Okay. Disable the recurring. See, if you go to order invoices, this sometimes it will give you an option for recurring payment, right? So don't click that recurring part. Like if you see, it will show me whether I have any credits and this thing or what is the purchase orders or something. Because if you click that recurring part, right, and sometimes you are not using any by mistake you have opened some services and it is charging you, it will automatically deduct your amount from the this thing. So don't select the recurring option or automatic deduction option.
Okay, sir.
If I come to that part, I will share you that details. So apart from this, everybody is clear. I think so. Yes.
Yes, sir.
So let's let's go to the. I have a small quiz that we can. For this quiz, you can unmute yourself, okay, and answer it one by one, okay, or unmute yourself if you know the answers. So I'll request everybody to do the assignment yesterday. At least you can do the assignment today. Okay. Yeah, I'm done. I'm done. Just 5 minutes, and I'm done for this for today. So cloud computing platform provides the following. So anybody can answer this. What does it do?
It's E, sir.
No measure from all the above, right?
Yes, E.
Because
yes,
it
Option
provides no
E.
measurement, right sizing, pay as you use, and everything. So following are the cloud features. Multiple choice.
Option C, sir.
Anybody?
Option C.
Multiple
Option C.
choice. Check.
Option C.
Check. It provides scalability, it provides reliability, it provides security, and it provides availability. It's a multi. So it's BCD. Scale out in the infrastructure or cloud technology is known as
So D, sir, horizontal.
scale out.
Horizontal scaling.
Very good. Yeah. As per Gartner report 2020, the top 3 cloud service providers are
CDE.
very good. Microsoft Azure, AWS, and GCP. Okay. Following are the following are the cloud deployment models. Which are those?
Hybrid and private cloud, I think, and public cloud.
Public,
CDF,
public, private,
right?
and hybrid.
Cloud.
Yes, sir. 3. Public, private, and hybrid.
Very good. So, which cloud form is responsible to connect private cloud with public clouds?
Hybrid cloud.
Very good. Function as a service is a part of which technology?
Serverless.
Very good. So, following are infrastructure as a code tools. Which are those?
All of those, sir. All the above.
All the above. So, I think so. Only Osman was attentive in my lecture, or I was so boring that. Following are the examples of microservices application model.
Netflix.
All of these, sir. All of this.
All of these, right? Paytm, Uber, Amazon, Netflix. Okay. A process or procedure is performed with minimal human assistance is called
automation.
Yeah, it can be automation also. It is automation actually. So we are done for the day. Okay. I'll be posting some related things on the WhatsApp group. Okay. But do refer this book. I think so. If you go to the WhatsApp this thing, you will get the link of the this thing. Okay. If you want, I can send it once more. But this is the last time I will be sending it because you have to look it and access the book as well as do the assignments. Okay. Thanks. I'll be that's all for the day.
Thank you, sir.